Over the years, we've heard a lot from the Trump family, but Tiffany Trump has mostly stayed under the radar. Unlike her siblings, she avoided the political drama, until now. Tiffany just spoke out about her father, Donald Trump, and let's just say, it's far from the usual praise he's accustomed to. Some are calling it surprising, but the real question is, why now? And what exactly did she reveal that's getting everyone's attention? Stick around, because by the end, you might be shocked, agreeing wholeheartedly, or wondering just how deep this story really goes. Growing up as Trump's California girl. Marla Maples and Donald Trump were married from 1993 to 1999. During their time together, they had a daughter, Tiffany. Unfortunately, their divorce was highly publicized in 1999. After that, Marla and young Tiffany moved to Calabasas, California, to start fresh. Their life there was a far cry from the fast-paced, glitzy world Tiffany's older half-siblings experienced back in New York. While Donald's older kids grew up in the heart of Manhattan, surrounded by towering skyscrapers, high-powered business deals, and the constant energy of their father's empire, Tiffany's childhood was completely different. Imagine a spacious home with a large backyard, a trampoline, and a peaceful, nature-filled environment, something that reminded Marla of her own childhood in Georgia. If New York symbolized steel and ambition, Calabasas was all about fresh air and simplicity. That was exactly the kind of life Marla wanted for her daughter. Tiffany Trump has always been quiet, maybe too quiet. Throughout her father's presidency and the controversies that followed, she stayed mostly in the background. But now she's stepped forward with a statement that could change how the public views Donald Trump forever. What did she say? And why is it so damaging? You'll want to hear this. Marla wasn't just raising Tiffany. She was determined to give her a normal, well-rounded childhood. You know how some celebrity kids grow up in a bubble, totally cut off from reality? Marla made sure that wasn't the case. She worked hard not only to keep Tiffany grounded, but to create a warm, balanced, and healthy life for her. Their daily routine was simple and wholesome. Home-cooked organic meals 5 nights a week? Check. Tennis and outdoor activities to keep Tiffany active? Absolutely. Humanitarian trips to places like Malawi to teach Tiffany about life beyond privilege? Marla made sure those happened. And of course, they had their own mother-daughter traditions, like movie nights, that created lasting bonds. Just because Tiffany's childhood was quieter than her Trump siblings, it didn't mean she wasn't surrounded by wealth and exclusivity. She went to the prestigious Viewpoint School, where tuition was about $30,000 a year. Not exactly your average high school experience. Even so, Marla stayed committed to keeping Tiffany's life balanced, despite her exposure to some high-profile social circles. Her goal was clear. She wanted Tiffany to discover who she was on her own, not just be Donald Trump's daughter. And Tiffany understood that perfectly. As she once said, "She moved us out of New York to get out of the spotlight and let me grow up and find my own identity versus being in the shadow of a name." That's how intentional Marla was in giving Tiffany the space to grow beyond her father's larger-than-life presence. Don't get it wrong, Tiffany and her dad weren't distant or disconnected. Even though she was raised across the country, she kept a relationship with Donald. It wasn't like they hung out every weekend, though. Their time together was more about carefully scheduled visits. Tiffany regularly traveled to New York, stayed at Trump Tower, shared meals with her dad and Melania, and caught glimpses of the fast-paced life her half-siblings lived every day. To his credit, Donald made sure to show up for the important moments. Whether it was big school events, award ceremonies, or milestones, he made the effort to fly to California to be there. Of course, with his busy schedule, he wasn't around for the everyday stuff. But Marla worked hard to keep a strong father-daughter bond between them. Marla was very deliberate about this. She never let her own feelings about Donald affect Tiffany's relationship with him. That's honestly pretty impressive given how messy some divorces can get. She didn't badmouth him, interfere, or push her opinions on Tiffany. She's got a dad who's a good provider when it comes to education and all that, but when it came to time, it was just me," Marla once said, making it clear that while Donald handled the financial side, she was the one raising Tiffany day in and day out. Still, despite the distance, Marla made sure Tiffany had the freedom to form her own opinions about her father. "I just said it's important for her to build her own relationship with him, without me influencing it," she explained, probably one of the healthiest approaches to co-parenting you could ask for in a situation like theirs. So year after year, holiday after holiday, Tiffany split her time between her calm West Coast life with her mom and the fast-moving world of Trump Tower and Mar-a-Lago. It was definitely a unique upbringing. While Ivanka, Don Jr., and Eric grew up fully immersed as extensions of their father's brand, Tiffany's childhood was a very different story, one where independence, self-discovery, and a sense of normal life came first, rather than power and legacy. And that all came down to Marla Maples, a mom who stepped out of the spotlight so her daughter could shine on her own terms, only when she was ready. Campaign trail moments. When the 2016 presidential campaign ramped up, Tiffany found herself entering a world she hadn't really been part of before. Public life, politics, and the intense media attention that comes with being the daughter of a presidential candidate. Unlike Ivanka, Don Jr., and Eric, who had been front and center in their dad's business and public life for years, Tiffany had mostly stayed on the sidelines. But 2016 changed that. She began making carefully planned public appearances, joining the campaign trail with a style that was polished yet understated, like she was involved, but on her own terms. One of her first major public moments was attending a White House event for the Wounded Warriors Project. It wasn't flashy or designed to grab headlines, and that was exactly the point. Tiffany wasn't trying to be the campaign's leading face or make big political speeches. Instead, she quietly showed her support, standing alongside her father in a way that felt intentional, but low-key. It was clear Tiffany was finding her own groove, not aiming to be a political firebrand, but not staying completely out of the spotlight either. And if there was one thing people noticed about Tiffany on the campaign trail, it was her unique sense of fashion. While it might not seem like a big deal since political events aren't fashion shows, Tiffany's wardrobe choices became a subtle yet meaningful form of self-expression. She frequently chose pieces by Chinese designer Taorui Wang, making the designer's looks her signature style at key moments. Tiffany wore Wang's designs to major events, campaign debates, election night, and even the inauguration. It was an interesting choice. While her siblings favored more traditional American designers, Tiffany's wardrobe had a distinct international vibe, blending elegance with a bit of edge. Maybe it was simply her personal style, or perhaps a way to carve out her own identity in a family where even clothing choices could be seen as political statements. Either way, it became her signature, and people definitely took notice. But what the public didn't see was that the campaign trail offered Tiffany something much more meaningful: quality time with her father. Before 2016, her relationship with Donald had been more distant than that of her siblings, mostly because they'd grown up in different environments. However, the long flights and travel between campaign stops gave them rare opportunities for private, one-on-one moments away from cameras, crowds, and political noise. Then came the 2016 Republican National Convention. That was Tiffany's big moment. For anyone wondering where she fit into the Trump political world, this speech was her answer. And she didn't try to be someone she wasn't. Instead of delivering a fiery political speech like Don Jr. or a polished business-like endorsement like Ivanka, Tiffany kept it personal. She spoke about how her father encouraged her to strive for excellence, supported her growth, and had a knack for bringing out the best in people. It was a softer, more intimate glimpse of the man behind the larger-than-life image. No aggressive political rhetoric, no controversial sound bites, just a daughter talking about her dad. The approach was strategic, but also felt genuine. By 2020, though, Tiffany's message had changed. She was no longer just paying tribute, she was stepping into politics more directly. Her RNC speech that year urged voters to go beyond political boundaries and judge leaders by results, not rhetoric. She also took a firm stance on media and technology, warning that people's opinions, thoughts, and even votes were being manipulated and visibly coerced. This was a different Tiffany from the one who spoke 4 years prior. Whether it was her growing comfort in the political spotlight or a stronger desire to take a stand, it was clear she was no longer just the quiet, fashion-forward Trump daughter. She was making her voice heard. Donald Trump has always been close to Ivanka, Eric, and Don Jr., but his relationship with Tiffany has remained a bit of a mystery for years. Now, Tiffany is finally opening up about what really goes on behind closed doors, and what she's saying is eye-opening. Could this be the turning point that changes everything for the Trump family? Life during the presidency. The dynamic between Donald Trump and Tiffany evolved significantly over the years, especially during his time in office. At first, things seemed stable between Tiffany and her dad, but as time went on, they grew more distant. They'd chat on the phone occasionally, but sometimes months would go by without a single conversation. Tiffany's first real moment in Washington came when she attended a Wounded Warriors Project event. It was a quiet but meaningful appearance. No big speeches, no flashy headlines, just her showing up to support her father's initiatives. And honestly, that pretty much sums up how she operated during those years. She wasn't in the thick of politics, pushing policies or stirring controversy. She showed up when it counted, but didn't seek the spotlight constantly. While her siblings were front and center at every major political event, making statements and rallying crowds, Tiffany was busy grinding through law school at Georgetown. That's a huge accomplishment, especially with the Trump name always following her around. Despite the constant media attention that came with being the president's daughter, Tiffany managed to carve out her own path, separate from the political circus her family was immersed in. But in 2019, the spotlight unexpectedly turned toward her. A White House aide, Madeleine Westerhout, made an offhand, insensitive remark suggesting that Donald Trump avoided taking pictures with Tiffany because of her body. Imagine hearing something like that about your own father, from someone inside the White House. The media pounced on it, turning it into a scandal. Trump quickly tried to put the fire out, publicly saying, "I love Tiffany." But the damage was already done. Whether true or not, it left people wondering how close their relationship really was. Despite that, Tiffany still stepped up when it mattered. She took the stage at the 2020 Republican National Convention, but this time, her speech carried a different tone. She wasn't just sharing warm, fuzzy stories about her dad like she did in 2016. Instead, she delivered a pointed message, warning about media bias and the manipulation of information. She called out how the media shapes public opinion and urged people to think critically for themselves. This was a stronger, more direct stance than anything she had taken before. Unlike Ivanka, who often spoke about her dad in deeply personal terms, Tiffany kept things formal. She didn't share touching father-daughter anecdotes or paint him as the doting dad. Instead, she stuck to endorsing his policies. That alone said a lot. Even though she wasn't always at the White House, Tiffany made time for family when it mattered. She spent holidays at Mar-a-Lago, and while she wasn't posting constant family updates, Ivanka made sure Tiffany appeared in social media posts of Trump family gatherings. It was clear Tiffany wasn't deeply entangled in the political scene, but wasn't completely detached either. She managed to balance staying involved while maintaining her independence. In a family where public loyalty often felt mandatory, Tiffany found a way to be present without being overexposed. That's no small feat, especially with a last name that guarantees endless scrutiny. For years, Tiffany Trump has been the most private member of the Trump family, staying out of the spotlight as her father dominated headlines. But now, she's finally speaking out, and what she just revealed about Donald Trump has everyone talking. What did she say? And why is it so surprising? Stay tuned. This changes everything. The current state of their relationship. Tiffany's relationship with her father has always been one of the more intriguing dynamics within the Trump family. Unlike her older siblings, who grew up deeply embedded in their father's business and later his political world, Tiffany was raised mostly out of the public eye, thanks to her mother Marla Maples's intentional choice for a more private childhood. But in 2024 and 2025, things shifted in unexpected ways. With Ivanka stepping back from politics and Eric and Don Jr. continuing their aggressive public support, Tiffany began stepping into a new role, one that reflects both her love for her father and her desire to maintain her own identity. That's a tough balance for anyone in such a high-profile family. Take the Milwaukee Convention in early 2025, for example. It was supposed to be just another political event, another moment in the Trump brand machine. But it revealed something more. When Tiffany approached her father, she was smiling and ready to embrace him, but something felt off. Maybe it was the awkward timing, the cameras catching every moment, or just the reality of their complicated history playing out in front of the world. Whatever it was, Tiffany handled it with grace, quickly regaining her composure and returning to her seat beside her husband, Michael Boulos. That small moment said a lot. It showed a daughter who was there, supportive, but also navigating the challenge of figuring out her place in her father's world. And it's not just a one-off. Tiffany's growing involvement in Trump's political sphere has been making headlines for a while. She's spoken at rallies, appeared at key campaign events, and even delivered a heartfelt speech in Reading, Pennsylvania, telling the crowd, "Hello, we love you, we support you, and my father's here fighting for you, and he's never gonna let you down." Now that was a bold statement, but what really caught people's attention was the genuine sincerity in her voice. She wasn't just reading from a script or going through the motions. She was fully present and engaged. And that's been the vibe lately. Whether it's at the Detroit Economic Club event where Trump proudly announced her pregnancy, calling her an exceptional young woman, or at the Pittsburgh campaign rally where he openly discussed how his children have taken on different levels of involvement, Tiffany is clearly making her own mark. Behind the scenes, insiders say that Trump's kids, Tiffany included, have started to trust his current political advisors more than ever before. This has created a more relaxed, authentic dynamic between them. They're no longer just playing parts in a political show. They're figuring out what their relationships really mean beyond the campaign spotlight. Tiffany, in particular, has found a way to support her father while still staying true to herself. A balancing act that's always been tough for her, but now seems to be falling into place. At its core, this isn't just about politics or public appearances. It's about a daughter who spent years defining herself outside her father's shadow, slowly reconnecting with him on her own terms. It's about a father who, despite all his bluster and bravado, seems to genuinely value the daughter who once stood on the outskirts of his world. And it's about the ever-changing nature of family, how relationships evolve, priorities shift, and ultimately, the things that really matter aren't always the ones making headlines. Tiffany Trump may never be the loudest or most visible member of the Trump family, and honestly, that's probably just how she wants it. But there's no question her relationship with her dad has changed, and in a world where every move is scrutinized, that shift is definitely worth noting. That brings us to the end of this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe for more great content. And to keep the stories coming, just click on the next video that pops up on your screen now.